Welcome to the Fourth Down Experience, the podcast devoted to special teams. Your host of the Fourth Down Experience, former pro free agent, 9-year professional kicking coach out of the Midwest, Coach Chris Hughesby. Alongside Coach Chris Hughesby is a former 2-time Arena Bowl champ, 9-year pro kicking coach, repping the South, Coach Brian Jackson.
Hey, what's up, 4D Nation? We are back for our In the News podcast. Thanks for joining us every week. We are in week 3 for NFL news and college news. What's up, Brian? How you doing?
I'm doing alive and well, man. How are you?
Good, man. Well, this was a much more positive week for specialists and for the brand, wouldn't you say, Brian?
Definitely better than the previous week.
Yep. So, well, let's start off with the hot topics this week. First of all, the GO.A.T to the game right now, Vinatieri. He is now tied for most field goals made in NFL history with 565 field goals, tying Morton Anderson. Isn't that crazy, man?
Just the number alone, 565 field goals in the NFL. That's just crazy.
Dude, I don't even know if I've kicked 565 field goals in my life. I mean, that's nuts.
Yeah,
that's
for sure. I mean, I had in my 4-year career at Ball State, I made 49 out of 64. So think about it. He's attempted more than that, but to make 565 field goals in the NFL is quite the feat, man. He's definitely the GOAT.
Exactly. Well, he's going to be the game to watch, I think, this Sunday, just to watch him do it, especially if you're a kicker or punter or just a fan of special teams. It'll be fun to just see it happen.
Absolutely.
Yep. So, in other news, the new Browns kicker, Greg Joseph, had a great first game, 2 field goals, a PAT. If you guys have been following and subscribing to our podcast, he was our last interview that just came out yesterday. So, if you'd like to hear his insight about what the first game was like, even what his tryout was like, it's a great listen. So, just make sure you go back to our previous episode that came out and listen to the podcast.
Yeah, seriously. If you guys want to know what it took to make the cut to play, y'all need to listen to our recent podcast because he literally broke down flying in and competing against a few other guys and the amount of kicks and what distances and everything. So, and happy for him and glad he was able to join us on the podcast talking about fourth downs. Yeah,
the thing that was incredible about that interview is the insight he gave. Every interviewee that we have gives us a lot of insight about tryouts and trainings and things like that. But this one was in depth, and I thought it was cool. And just the names of free agent specialists he went up against. I think you guys, if you go back and listen to that episode, would be amazed to see who he beat out. And guys, we like to because we've talked to most of them before. So always intriguing to understand what a coach thinks and why they pick a particular player. So just make sure you go back and listen to it.
Yeah, definitely. New Vikings kicker, Dan Bailey, who's obviously super popular and one of the most accurate kickers in NFL history. Didn't have a lot of attempts, but did have an onside kick in the game. What do you think about the Vikings? They're kind of struggling this year, just in general. Do you think they're going to pick their game back up?
It's interesting. The Buffalo Bills took it to them. I've always been vocal about giving your kicker second chances, but the guy they got, Dan Bailey, historically, he's accurate, so I think he'd be good for the team. It's interesting. Vikings were dropped in the same sentences for Super Bowl contenders, so I guess this next game against the Rams, we'll see how it goes because this will definitely be a good showing to see if they can contend with a hot Rams team right now.
No doubt. I'll be curious to see how Dan does. He has a history and he's done super well, so. Obviously, would love to see Daniel Carlson get picked up. I think a lot of us are rooting for him, but also interested in see how Dan Bailey does too.
Yep. Which leads us to another point kind of tying into to Bailey and some of the things that we've been talking about and Carlson. Mike Tomlin with the Steelers, he came out right away and just said that he's got Chris Boswell's back. He's our kicker. Boswell had another rough game. He's actually 1 of 4 on field goals this season and 11 of 12 on PATs, which isn't necessarily a great start for kickers, but it's awesome to see a head coach still have faith in his guy,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that he's got his back, and I think Boswell will turn it around. I mean, he just got paid, and he got paid for good reasoning. I mean, he's been a super consistent, strong kicker the last few years, so hoping that he turns it around for sure.
Yep. In a game that was great for the brand, Jacksonville Jaguars and Titans, it was a kicker's game. 5 total field goals, ended in a 9-6 win. So that's always fun to see.
Yeah, especially for all those people that went kicking out of the game. That literally made the game was field goal kicking. So for all those announcers out there that like to talk crap about kickers, just watch that game and you'll change your mind about us.
Yep, exactly. Well, kind of last positive update, I guess, for kickers here. Sam Ficken with the Rams, re-signed back with the team. Made a tackle on kickoff. So we always like to see physical specialists and guys that can pretty much make touchdown-saving tackles. So just congrats, Sam, on that one.
Yeah, that was nice. It was a really good tackle, and it's always good to do that. And just got to be careful out there. There's physical guys at that level,
Yeah. Oh, actually, one last update. Saw it yesterday, or maybe it was this morning. The Raiders signed a new kicker, Matthew McCrane, out of, I believe he was Kansas State. So another fill-in kicker while Eddie Piñeiro's on injured reserve. So I don't know how long this guy will be with the squad, but he's filling in with the Raiders. So good luck, Matthew.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of NFL teams are wanting the young, new blood, the youth, and wanting to see how they can do and develop some kickers for 5 to 7 years.
Yep. Yeah. Last few updates, guys, in college. We always say it's hard to track so many college games, but love to see that Michigan State converted a fake field goal for a touchdown. One of those plays where the holder just lateraled the ball back to the kicker, and he kind of swept around the corner just to the right corner of the end zone. So always pretty sweet to see, and really a kicker's dream.
Yeah, and that was a great job by the coaching staff because it was a short right hash kick. They brought over their tight end over to the left-hand side to make a long line, and they only had 2 guys they had to worry about. And really the holder did the awesome job here because he was able to hold that outside guy contained and freeze him a little bit, and then that guy pitched it, and then the kicker just made a nice little dive into the end zone. So definitely cool to see kickers score touchdowns for sure.
Yep. And last but not least, the embarrassment part of the brand are when things happen, but I'm sure everybody saw it because Pat McAfee was first to tweet about it. But Wake Forest, talk about a kind of a funny debacle. So they went out to a line for a field goal, and the field goal kicker forgot to run out to the field. So then he runs out, and then he misses it. So talk about lesson learned there.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, he was kicking in the net, and I think he probably thought it was third down. So he just forgot, and then he got out there in time and kicked it, just it doinked off the upright.
Yeah.
Sometimes when in those situations, if you doink it off the upright, it seems like it makes it even more dramatic.
Yeah. Well, let's call this a lesson learned. One thing that we always tell kickers, and O'Brien and I, we coach on a local high school team. So, but just kickers in general, what you want to do is essentially follow the offensive coach down the field. When they're on the opposite 50, you're preparing yourself mentally for a potential punt. And then when you cross the 50, you're essentially getting yourself in field goal range. But you always got to know when it's third down because you should probably do a dry run of either a punt or a field goal. And then you just got to be ready for that coach making that last-minute call for a field goal. So let's just learn from that mistake, and I'm sure that kicker from Wake Forest learned as well.
Yeah.
All right, fellas, that's another quick edition of In the News from the Fourth Down Experience podcast. We hope you like these. Keep submitting and posting and tweeting at us things that happen in our industry. And again, we always like to thank Pat McAfee for doing a great job, for giving us exposure and being a supporter of even what we do on our podcast. So thanks again, guys, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, if you guys think that we forgot something, don't get mad at us. Just tell us. Send us a DM and say, hey, you forgot about this, but hey, I'll make sure to tell you what's going on next week. Like, let us know. If there's something that happened over the weekend, send us a DM and we'll give you a shout out.
All right, guys, we'll see you later. Have a good weekend and good luck this week in your next game. Later.
All right, later, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Fourth Down Experience. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Fourth Down Experience.